They called our law enforcement agents who risked their lives to keep us safe. Their families pray and wait for their mom or dad to come home, wondering if something goes wrong and the bad guys win that day and they never see their family member again. And yet, my Democrat colleague repeatedly referred to our honorable ICE and CBP agents as masked thugs.
Did you just hear Ilhan Omar call the men and women protecting this country masked thugs? The same agents who kiss their kids goodbye every morning not knowing if they are coming home, she called them thugs. But Jodey Arrington wasn't about to let that slide. He walked up to that MIC and delivered the kind of truth bomb Washington hasn't seen in years. If you love this country and you're sick of anti-American radicals spitting on our law enforcement, you need to stay until the very end of this video. Like this right now, subscribe, and let's get into the full breakdown, because what Arrington did next is absolutely legendary.
Is even more incomprehensible considering it comes after Trump and congressional Republicans already created an $85 billion slush fund for ICE during the last budget reconciliation process. In my district, ICE has used the money to terrorize Minnesotans, particularly our Black and brown communities, through Operation Metro Surge. We watched in horror as ICE agents murdered our neighbors, Renee Good and Alex Brady, in broad daylight. We witnessed our neighbors being snatched off the street, pulled from their homes and cars without a warrant. We saw dozens of children ripped away from their families, friends, and schools, shipped to detention centers out of state. Our communities are still recovering from that devastation caused by the federal occupation and the blatant trampling of the rights we as Americans hold dear. We cannot send this rogue and unaccountable agency another cent.
You'll hear my colleagues no doubt say, if we could just agree on some common sense reforms, we would have opened up the Department of Homeland Security. We would have been glad to work with you. But let's think about these quote unquote common sense reforms. To require this administration to get a judicial warrant to expel criminal aliens from our country. There is not a Democrat or Republican former commander-in-chief that would ever find that acceptable. Because in fact, these criminal aliens have had their day in immigration court, and they have their orders to be expelled because they are not here with cause. They are here with threat to my family and to my community and to my great state of Texas and to this beloved country of ours, and it's unacceptable. But they would effectively stop all deportations. But we had an election after 4 years of lawlessness and chaos at the southern border, crime criminals, and all kinds of criminal elements and drugs that killed more people than the entire Vietnam War in 1 year. And this president was elected to restore law and order, rule of law in this great civil society of ours. It's been an embarrassment for those 4 years, and he's done it, and that's what the people sent us here to do. That's the mandate they gave us, along with unified Republican leadership. But there's been one wall of obstruction after another for this president and this administration. And that's one example of their ridiculous, absurd, unserious demands. The other one is, and I heard this at the Rules Committee, my friend, and I couldn't believe my ears. They called our law enforcement agents who risked their lives to keep us safe. Their families pray and wait for their mom or dad to come home, wondering if something goes wrong and the bad guys win that day and they never see their family member again. And yet, my Democrat colleague repeatedly referred to our honorable ICE and CBP agents as masked thugs. When evil is called good and good is called evil. You remember that quote? You remember that admonition? These are the days. Mr. Speaker, we've given 16 chances and all opportunities to vote to turn this government of the people back on and support our ICE and CBP agents, to protect our ports by funding our guardsmen, to protect the CISA agents, to protect our critical infrastructure while cyber attacks are on the rise, and to resource our FEMA agency to be ready to respond to our citizens in a natural disaster. 16 times they said no. No. And here we are. Demasking our agents, calling them masked thugs. 8,000% increase, Mr. Speaker, in death threats to these gentlemen and gentle lady who wear the badge, who wear the uniform, who protect the thin blue line. 1,300% increase in assaults. 3,200% increase in vehicular assaults. We know who they are. We have made great effort to identify each agent so they would be held accountable if they did anything illegal or inappropriate. But we have cartel members who have bounties of tens of thousands of dollars on their heads. And we have masked, leftist, radical, violent folks who are assaulting them in the streets while they're trying to do their dangerous job. You want to know why we're here, Mr. Speaker? You want to know why we're here, American people?
Arrington didn't just win that exchange. He exposed exactly what the radical left thinks of the people keeping Americans safe. Omar sat there and called a federal occupation on her own country's law enforcement. She called documented, badged, sworn officers of the law thugs while defending people who are here illegally with deportation orders. Let that sink in. But Arrington came with receipts. An 8,000% increase in death threats against ICE agents. A 3,200% increase in vehicular assaults. These aren't talking points. That's blood and sacrifice being ignored by people like Omar who would rather protect criminal aliens than the agents hunting them down. And after 16 chances to fund the government and support border security, Democrats said no every single time. Every single time. The American people spoke in that election. They said secure the border. They said restore order. They said enough. And Omar's response is to go on the House floor and paint cartel-fighting agents as the villains. That is not a policy disagreement. That is a betrayal of this country. Arrington called it exactly what it is, when evil is called good and good is called evil. That's not rhetoric. That's what we are watching happen in real time on the House floor. Arrington had the backbone to say it out loud, and the left had absolutely nothing to fire back with.